Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to Author's Corner, where we highlight and showcase our local authors. Today, I am speaking to Millie Clark, author of Millie, My Gift of Bangles. Welcome, Millie.
Thank you, Myrna. Good to be on your show and really looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, awesome. I'm looking forward to our conversation too, because I love the title of your book. It is a tantalizing title, and that's how you're supposed to make titles these days.
Absolutely.
Tantalizing. So that's great. All right, guys. So let me give you guys a brief synopsis. Millie, My Gift of Bangles, is an enchanting journey that celebrates the rich tapestry of life and career through the lens of Millie, an African woman of resilience and grace. Like vibrant bangles adorning her wrists, each chapter of Millie's story reflects a unique facet of her journey, woven with threads of tradition, wisdom, and heritage. From the busy streets of her homeland to the boardrooms of global corporations, Millie's narrative resonates with the rhythm of African life, echoing the vibrant colors and timeless rhythms of her heritage. With each bangle, she shares stories of triumph and tribulation, of mentors who guided her like her elders around a communal fire, imparting wisdom passed down through generations. In Millie, The Gift of Bangles, readers are invited to embark on a journey of discovery and resilience, where the clinking of bangles is a reminder of the strength found in unity, the beauty of diversity, and the power of ancestral wisdom. Through her candid reflections, Millie reveals the enduring values that have shaped her journey, resilience, community, and the unbreakable bond between past, present, and future. Amazing. All right. Well, Millie, as we start off,
Yeah.
how would the rhythm of your African heritage allow you to embrace grace and resilience and the rhythm of your bangles?
My bangles are clinging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks, Myrna. Um, Even though I've been away from my home country, Ghana, for over 35 years, I visited frequently, and Africa has always been home and has always been in my soul. I mean, when I think of, the diversity of the people, the cultures, the food, the languages, and of course the music and the dancing, there's
Yeah.
just so much dynamism and attributes of personal and collective behaviors. I'm sure you've heard about the concept of Ubuntu. It's an African word meaning humanity to others. And it actually states, I am what I am because of who we are. And that
Nice.
just makes me so proud to be African. And so throughout my story, it's about people who have helped me to get to where I am today, and the role they played in my life. And the bangles just represents how happy or sad sometimes I've been with that role. When I was young, I observed my grandmother, my mother, and other women display inner conviction that they were unbreakable, irrespective of life struggles. If they encountered difficulties, they just pull themselves together very quickly, and they would not even verbalize how they were feeling or what they were going through. And for me, that's when I realized the power of resilience. It was about putting, all the bad stuff behind you and finding the strength to move on, despite everything that, tries to hold you back. And so I came to the conclusion with resilience and grace that there are two options in life. We're going to make it work or we can't snap out of it. And for me, I decided I'm going to make it work with so much grace, not letting people perhaps know exactly what it is that I was going through. But it was important that I picked up myself each time that I felt things were not going right. And that's what the grace and resilience is all about.
Well, yeah. Well, a couple of things there. One, as a woman of African descent, I'm from Guyana, and a lot of times when I say Guyana, people
It's in
think
Ghana.
Ghana. So, we kind of connected, but we all came from the motherland. But one of the things that is our heritage is that there's always been struggle in our lives. So when there's struggle, you can rise above it or you can let it take you down. And one of the things my pastor always says is that you shouldn't look like what you've gone through. So I like what you say, that regardless of what you're going through, that you are not going to show it all over your face, and you're not going to, you're going to handle it with grace and have certain resilience, because, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, that's our story.
Yep.
We didn't, whether you're from the motherland or you from, here as an African American, things weren't handed to us.
Yep.
We have to struggle. We have to have resilience in our lives if we're gonna keep our heads above water. So that's great, a great introduction. But when you have the title, "The Gift of Your Bangles," right? Can you
Mm,
share a specific instance where resilience played a crucial role in you overcoming an obstacle?
yes. I think in my book, I share lots of, stories that, I could actually kind of relate here. But I want to pick this one because I think many women go through this and suffer in silence. I was fully menopausal by the time I was 40 years old.
Mm.
I had been going through in vitro fertilization treatment for over 10 years. And after I had my babies, thank God,
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
menopause set in very, very quickly. And I was very unprepared for this, right? This phenomenon I was unprepared. And I experienced the full suite of hot flashes, insomnia, migraines, weight gain, irritability, name it. But I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. However, my relationships were struggling. I mean, my work was suffering, and all this was because of the menopause. And in those days, nobody spoke about menopause. You seldom heard anybody say anything about menopause. So you either suffer in silence or you quit. And I wasn't about to quit my job. I was an immigrant in South Africa. I needed the money. My parents back home needed. I was supporting them, so I needed, to continue working. But as I said, my work was suffering, and my colleagues didn't understand what was going on with me. And one day, Myrna, I sat on my bed and I prayed Philippians 4:11-13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Nice.
And I said, yeah, Christ is going to. I sat down and I said, if Christ is going to strengthen me, then what action am I going to take to press on? I've got to do something, right? I can't just sit and say Christ is going to strengthen me. And I sat back and I just wrote down certain things that I was going to do. I owned up to the fact that I was struggling. And I started now verbalizing how I was feeling to my colleagues, irrespective of whether they wanted to hear or not. I started talking about menopause. I went on to HRTs. I got myself a personal trainer to get my weight back in shape. And I carried a handheld fan, as a fashion statement everywhere I went. I just decided I was just going to leave this behind me and kind of, make it real for me. And I'll often remark to my colleagues, I'm having my personal summer when I broke up into a sweat. So
Mhm.
for me, you see, being resilient, you have to have the willingness to overcome some of the difficulties rather than to avoid them. I could have avoided the problem by just resigning and sitting at home because I just didn't want to deal with this at the workplace. I could have continued being miserable and menopausal.
Mhm.
But I realized that I needed that support network. of my colleagues, of my bosses, of my husband, of the kids. And it was important for me to take care of myself, and which included meditation and mindfulness, being prayerful, understanding my faith. And I adapted to these challenges because my faith helped me to play a huge role in ensuring that I remained resilient, which gave me hope and the conviction to press on. So for
Right.
me, what I tell a lot of women who are going through this is verbalize it, make it real, because it's important for people to understand.
Well, I'm glad you chose that story because that's a perfect story because, women, we're all going to go through puberty, we're all going to go through menopause, and a lot of women now are going through fertility issues. So I'm pretty sure you've got that in your book because you said you had to go through IVF treatment. So, yeah, resilience and a mindset of how to push on, right, is good. So one of the things that books do is it offers hope and encouragement. That's the tagline of my book, hope and encouragement to the readers, so that they can learn from your experience. So that was a beautiful story, and I'm glad you chose that one because people can understand whether what are you going to do. There's nothing you can do. There's this, whether it's menopausal, whether it's cancer, whether it's whatever challenges that we're having, we have got to have a mindset of how we're going to be resilient. So that's amazing. All right. So you also talk about your experiences with diversity. And so, how did your diversity influence your perspectives on leadership and career development?
Yeah. So, as I mean, I have stated, I was a Ghanaian immigrant in South Africa, and that was in the apartheid South Africa era. So
Mm,
that wasn't easy at all.
mm,
And, as a Ghanaian who had immigrated to South Africa, first of all, I had my fair share of the struggles in the workplace, especially. You're a Black African, you're a woman, you're an immigrant. You know, I, the only
and
missing bit was
probably in a white society, because when people hear Africa, they think it's Black people, but South Africa is predominantly white, right?
so it's predominantly black with white people there, but
Okay,
apartheid was the whites doing it onto the blacks.
okay,
But I had the added challenge of the blacks seeing you as the other, so there was a lot of xenophobia as well,
okay,
you know,
right.
and I was most always the minority in a lot of situations. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, my accent was different, even from the Black South Africans. So people will say, "You've got an accent." And I'm thinking, "You have an accent too, right?" According to me.
Wow, wow.
Um, but I was mostly the only minority in a lot of the leadership teams where I experienced, for instance, gender pay gaps. You know, as a woman, and as a Black African, my competence would be questioned because I was Black African.
Yeah.
And, I got a lot of declines on boards, positions that I wanted to be on because you're an immigrant. And I felt constantly under pressure. And this often led to imposter syndrome for me because I really had a feeling I didn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one of my leaders when I got appointed as his HR director, he kept saying, "Oh, you must always go to Pete because Pete can help you." And Pete was my junior. He just happened to be a white male, like my
Wow,
boss. So
wow.
I just felt so belittled by that statement. "Oh, have you checked with Pete? Oh, Pete will help you with this." And one day I walked into his office, closed the door behind me, and said, "Sab," that was his name, "Sab, can you please let me walk in my own fabulous shoes?" And Myrna, I quickly ran out of that office because I was so afraid of what was going to happen. I wasn't
Right.
sure what he was going to say to me, and I didn't want to hear. And so for me, some of these, experiences were quite difficult to go through, and when I told him I wanted to wear my own fabulous shoes, it was not just a declaration of, assessing my professional competence. It was about embracing my unique perspective and experiences, which I thought he really didn't appreciate. So from that time, I made a conscious effort to promote diverse work groups wherever I could. And whenever I had the position or the leadership roles, I ensured that I coached, I championed and empowered diverse teams because I know firsthand what I've been through and how it feels to be the outsider. So for minorities, what I usually tell them is that it is important to be a person, not a label. Don't let them just say you are black, you are African, you're a woman. Let them see your competence. Let people know you so that they know what you are capable of. And for leaders, I just say to them, diversity is a game changer. Everybody knows this, but somehow nobody actually embrace. Well, not a lot of people embrace it. I mean, diverse teams make better decisions 87% of the time, and
Yeah.
organizations in the top quartile for ethnic diversity are 36% more likely to outperform financially. So therefore, it is important to create a nurturing culture, where everyone feels, valued, respected, and empowered to contribute, and just feel that the workplace is a place where they can grow and flourish. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I've had a lot of, not a lot, I've had a few interviews on diversity on the show. Diversity and inclusion, if you want to do the whole tagline.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's come out from that is that diversity is good for the corporations because when you, especially, when you have diverse people handling your customer service, handling your product launches, they're bringing their diverse background to your product line, and it's better for your company. But yeah, listen, whether it's, South Africa, whether it's America, whether it's even Guyana, where I come from, because in Guyana, you wouldn't think there is racism, but the Indians feel better than the blacks, and the black feels more
Hmm.
superior than the Indians. So it
Abs-
happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. And Dr. Martin Luther King says, we shouldn't look at a person's color. We should look at their character. That's coming, but it's not here yet. So, yes, people feel that you are incompetent. Even we're going through elections right now. And there's a whole bunch of people that have sexism
no,
against the vice president, Kamala Harris, because she's a woman and a black woman. So it
yes.
continues all the time. But I mean, if we were to use her, she is the most qualified human that I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. The most qualified human that I know. And regardless if she's a woman or a black woman or whatever, she brings it. You know what I mean? Nobody is doing her any favors because she's qualified. But yeah, a lot of the men are sitting over in the corner saying, I don't know if I can have a woman president. Same thing
Mm,
happens all that time.
all
All
the
right.
time.
So I'm glad that you're highlighting, with your story, these issues that we have to go through and offering solutions and advice for anybody that might be going through that situation. So, tell us about your book, Millie, My Gift of Bangles. Why did you write it, and what do you want readers to walk away with after reading?
Yeah. Myrna, I would often, I retired about 3 months ago. I turned 60 and I thought, that is it. I'm not going to do any more corporate work. I've been working all my life. It's now time for me to do what I enjoy doing or what I want to do. And about 3 years ago, I woke up one day and I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write my career story because often people have walked up to me and said to me, I want to be like you. And
Okay.
that is when I knew I needed to write something.
Okay.
because feedback I've received portrays me as a strong, confident, undeterred and resilient woman. But behind all of this is a journey filled with challenges, my own inadequacies as a leader, sometimes mirroring the negative behaviors of my leaders, sometimes mirroring their positive behaviors. And I wanted to humanize leadership. I can't remember who said that, but someone said, "From the errors of others, a wise man corrects his own." And so
Nice.
for me, in that book, I portrayed a lot, bravely sharing my personal experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, as they put it. I've shared insights, real life lessons on how to navigate a corporate career and the role and impact of leadership, even beyond corporate doors. And this I have shared authentically and with compassion and with the hope that others can take some of the nuggets from my experiences. So leaders are human, and that's what I wanted people to know. And we all have good and bad in us, but what we act on is what really counts. And leadership is not just about having a title. It's about understanding yourself, empowering others, and then lifting and learning as you climb. And in Africa, it is said that a woman does not buy the bangles that she wears. They are gifted to her. So the experiences that I gained from my leaders became like adding, another metaphorical bangle each time that I learned something or I gained an experience. And that's where the title Millie, My Gift of Bangles come from. Each bangle represents a milestone, a hard earned, a learned lesson, or victory, and they jingle jangle to tell my story. And I just want leaders or readers to take away with them, that learning is something that is progressive and you never stop learning. My book, it's about learning to bounce back from setbacks. It's about learning the strategies to overcome workplace bias, boosting self-assurance in professional settings, learning the importance of supportive networks, developing effective leadership, and most importantly, the role of a mentor, a coach, or a sponsor. And many a time, people forget that you can't climb alone. You've got the village, as it were. That's, in Africa, they say, if it takes a village to raise a child. So
Sounds right.
similarly, you need a mentor, the coach, and the sponsor to help you get to where you are. So that's in essence why I wrote the book.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, in Guyana, we wear bangles too, but we buy them ourselves. Nobody gifts it to us. So get the connection now. My gift of bangles, right? It's an African
Yes,
tradition to give you a bangle, and you're giving your readers the gift of your story and the way that to handle it. I love it. I love it. So that's a gift that you're giving to them, like how somebody would gift you a bangle. I love it.
that's
Yes. Very nice. Very nice. Yes. It's good to get the connection to,
yes.
behind the thought.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I
So that's
say in the book, some bangles are pretty, others are in some are in gold, in silver, some are even in paper and wood, right? So
really,
it's a gift irrespective of the value of it. But I
yes.
think in essence, as I said, what is important is they all jingle dangle to tell the story, irrespective,
Great. I love
of.
it. I love it. Yes. Okay.
Mm.
Awesome. All right. So tell our listeners where they can pick up a copy of your book. If you have a website, if you're in social media, what are your social media handles?
Yes. So my book is available on Amazon and on Kobo. So it's Millie, My Gift of Bangles. I have a website and it's I am millieclark.com. They can also write to me on i.am.millieclark@gmail.com. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. So Instagram, Millie, Milli dot E Clark, and Facebook, Millie, My Gift of Bangles, and on LinkedIn, Millicent Clark. so they can pick up from there.
Okay.
And
All right.
I'll get people write to me to explore some of the topics in the book, so which is great.
That's amazing. All right. I love it. All right, guys. Well, listen, I enjoyed bringing this author to you today. I will have a summary of my conversation with Millie on the show page, which is myhelps.us. And I will link out to her website, to her book on Amazon, as well as to her social media handles. So if you want to follow her and learn from her story. So go out and pick up a copy of her book, support her, and have some learning for yourself as well. I love the one story she shared about menopause, but I'm sure that there's lots more powerful stories in there that you can learn from. So, Millie, thank you for being on the show. Love talking to you. And as we wrap up, do you have any parting words for the listeners?
Yes, I think, Myrna, what I want to leave with the listeners is you have to find that thing that keeps you going, that helps you to transform your mind into a better version of yourself. But hey,
Right.
you know what? When you get there, then you want another better version of yourself. And mine is staying on my peace, what I call my priorities. I remain focused on achieving my goals, my peace of mind. For me, it's important to keep your anger to yourself because it diminishes your power if you show it. Prayer, my third P, which helps me to connect to something greater than me and to improve my emotional well being. And lastly, positivity. If opportunity doesn't knock, please build a door. Thank you.
Wow. Now that was a powerful ending, girl. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Myrna.
That was powerful. I like it. Your piece. Huh.
Yeah, peace.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to quote that when I'm sharing this episode.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, Author's Corner. Go ahead and support the authors that I highlight. And if you need any more information, just head over to the show page, myhelps.us. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, guys, for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.
Namaste. Bye, Myrna.